Well, it's great to have you with us on another action-packed episode of Travel Diaries, your official travel guide to the most stunning locations across Kenya. I'm your host, Eve D'Souza.
And I'm Nick Wangondo, and trust me, you guys do not want to miss out this show because it's all about adventure sports. And apparently you're going to go bungee jumping.
Yes, amongst very many other things, all right? Just call me Shira right now.
I only remember the bungee jump.
There's a lot of chest thumping and, I feel like a bit of a guy.
Do you?
Yeah.
Really?
No, not really.
Exactly, I thought so.
But I'm more of a dude than you are, Nick, any day. You know that.
Look, I'm very in touch with my feminine side. Very in touch.
Yeah, it shows. Very much so. So anyway, adventure sports in Kenya, there's a lot of options.
Okay.
And we started off in Diani at the beach, nice and easy. Did a little bit of windsurfing, which is harder than it looks. So
nice and easy being the key word.
No, it wasn't easy. I fell a lot of times, and I went scuba diving as well. And then after that, headed down to Sagana for the real thrill, the big one, bungee jumping and white water rafting.
Wow, that sounds really, really intense. I mean, like I did a bit of rock climbing in
Gate,
which kind of built up my stamina because I was actually planning on doing mountain climbing.
Okay, fine.
At Mount Kenya. So I don't know about you, but that's quite physical on my end. Now you guys need to stay tuned because you're not going to want to miss out on what's happening on this show.
Yes, and you're not going to want to miss out all the laughs when you see Nick
tumble down a rock face, screaming like a little
Jack and Jill. Right down, all the way to the bottom. So adventure sports at its very best in Kenya, coming up next on Travel Diaries. One thing you don't know about me is I'm a beast. I'm like Sylvester Stallone, Chuck Norris, Jackie Chan, all wrapped into one. And today, it's extreme sports time. I'm going to suck at it. I have a very strong feeling. But here we are in Diani at the Diani Watersport Center. Incredible extreme sports waiting for us. I'm going to try my hand at windsurfing. You can also get up to some kayaking if you like, some scuba diving, boogie boards, which I'm really looking forward to, and so much more. Perfect weather, of course, is extreme sports on the beach. So, I'll be back. When you visit the Diani Reef Hotel, you can also pop into the Water Sports Center for all sorts of fun activities at the beach. They offer scuba diving, snorkeling, glass-bottom boat rides, and one I was totally challenged by, windsurfing. Windsurfing is a surface water sport that combines elements of surfing and sailing. It consists of a board, usually 2 to 4 meters long, powered by the effect of the wind on a sail. The rig is connected to the board by a free rotating universal joint and comprises a mast, wishbone, boom, and sail. You can take lessons on how to windsurf, and it does take quite some time until you feel totally comfortable on the board. So get ready to fall, and fall some more. Jet skis are also very popular at the beach, and the speed and freedom of open spaces on the sea makes for quite an adrenaline rush. If you'd like to take a break from the high-energy activities and have a closer look at the coral world below, well, you can go snorkeling or take a glass-bottom boat ride. This is a good opportunity to have a look at the impressive coral and different shapes and sizes of fish swimming below. In addition, the Watersport Center also offers scuba diving lessons and can take you out to the deep sea once you understand and grasp the various instructions that need to be followed. You'll start off as a beginner in the pool, and when ready, the instructors will take you out to sea for the real thrilling experience. At the end of the day, there is so much that you can do by the beach, and it doesn't take much to turn your day into an adventure in the sun and sand.
Now, Eve, I'm pretty sure a 5-year-old is much better than you at windsurfing. Actually, I'm pretty sure a 5-year-old is much better than you at any water sport. Now, let's keep it travel diaries because today I'm at Hell's Gate National Park, and although I'd love to go for a beautiful game drive, my adventure sport today is rock climbing. Now, they say this sport is not limited to the experienced members or experienced climbers, but let's just see how this goes. The Hell's Gate National Park is just 2 hours drive from Nairobi. It was baptized Hell's Gate by two explorers in the 1880s. Thought to have been formed by a river spilling out of Lake Naivasha in the past, this magnificent gorge with sheer cliffs rising to 150 meters and renowned for its wildlife is designated a national park. The cliffs have deservedly become famous for their hard and serious climbing. Ernest Miller Hemingway, an author, journalist, and Nobel Peace Prize winner, is quoted as having said that there are only 3 real sports: bullfighting, car racing, and rock climbing. All the others are mere games. Rock climbing, also lightly known as the gravity game, is a sport in which participants climb up, down, or across natural rock formations or artificial rock walls. The goal is to reach the summit of a formation or endpoint of a predefined route without falling. This is a physically and mentally demanding sport, one that often tests the climber's strength, endurance, agility, and balance along with his or her mental control. Dangling precariously with only a rope and some hooks for support is not everyone's idea of a great weekend outing. But for this group of friends, inasmuch as rock climbing can be risky, where one small mistake in placing or using equipment can be dangerous and even fatal for the climber, the tremendous heights and small margin for error can make for one of the biggest buzzes experienced in an extreme sport. The first step involves going through the basics with an experienced rock climber. A variety of specialized climbing techniques and climbing equipment exists to ensure safety. Climbers will usually work in pairs and utilize a system of ropes and anchors designed to catch falls. Ropes and anchors can be configured differently to suit many styles of climbing.
If I give this, I'll usually buy half a size small.
The first thing is having the proper tools and equipment. One very important piece of equipment is your rock climbing shoes. There are specialized shoes for the sport, and it was interesting to learn that you need to invest in a pair half a size smaller to ensure the shoe molds to your foot for a perfect fit. After a detailed prep on the do's and don'ts and the sports jargon, I was ready for my first ever attempt at the sport. I opted for the beginner style of climbing referred to as top roping. In top roping, an anchor is set up at the summit of a route prior to the start of a climb. Rope is then run through the anchor, one end attaches to the climber and the other to the belayer, who keeps the rope taut during the climb and prevents long falls. This type of climbing is widely regarded as the safest type of climbing, with the lowest chance of injury. After a rather shaky beginning, I sort of got the hang of it, and as I found out, rock climbing is one of the most exhilarating adventures you will ever experience. if you have the guts to attempt it. It involves strength and determination and possibly a touch of insanity. The sport that challenges you to test your physical and mental limits. It forces you to slow down, look ahead, consider your options, and then cling to it with all your might. Essentially, the principles for success in rock climbing are the same as in life, only with a much larger possibility for physical injury. However, as in life, if you know yourself and know your capabilities, you can work within both to reduce your risk of injury and still push your limits. This sport is a complete workout involving use of your upper and lower body. Apparently, you lose 9 calories a minute because the sport entails use of muscles not normally used in the gym. It is a great way to bond with friends, and it builds rapport even among strangers, as you have to trust the person on the other end of the rope with your life. The feeling when you make it to the summit is absolutely priceless. Remember that this is a dangerous sport and must be taken with utmost care and supervision. Rock climbing at Hell's Gate National Park provides excellent measures of tact, agility, strength, and perseverance. Even better, the fact is not limited to those with experience or to adults. It can therefore be a family affair or a challenge for a group of friends. For some, the view is reason enough. For others, it's a personal challenge, and for most, it's too much fun to let pass by.
You're watching Travel Diaries in association with the Kenya Tourist Board.
The Savage Camp in Sagana is just 1.5 hours drive from Nairobi. Here, you can experience the thrill of adventure sports in the form of bungee jumping, courtesy of Bungeewala, or whitewater rafting with the Savage Wilderness Safaris. Well, welcome back to Travel Diaries, and you can call me D'Souza. Eve D'Souza. That's right, the daredevil that lives on the edge. No adventure too big enough. In fact, Ben 10 has nothing on me. Okay, I can't keep this up because the truth of the matter is I am terrified. We are at the Savage Wilderness Camp, and a lot of adventure coming up right now because this scaredy cat is going bungee jumping. Bungee jumping is for the daring and is an absolute thrilling experience, leaving you feeling fearless and ready for anything life throws at you. The weight limit is between 40 kilos to 110 kilos, and you will be jumping off a custom-built steel tower 200 meters above. Weight and correct fitting of the harness is the most important safety factor in bungee jumping. The climb up the steel pole can be quite tiring, climbing up 60 meters. Once you're safely to the top in the jump cage, you will be instructed further on how to jump correctly and safely. You have 15 minutes to jump once the steel gate is open. If you choose not to jump, you can return down the steel pole, but without a refund. So after all that huffing and puffing up the tower and actually paying for the experience, it's really not worth chickening out. Whitewater rafting down the Tana River is an absolute rush. The experience lasts about 3 hours, depending on the water levels, and the first step is getting a safety brief at the Whitewater Rafting River Camp to prepare you for what you're about to encounter and experience. You're then provided with life jackets, helmets, and a paddle. Each raft can take up to 6 people. And after the brief, the group will board the bus and head off to the starting point. The adventure starts with a 3-kilometer easy stretch where there is plenty of opportunity to practice the paddle skills required to run the lower part of the river. A 6-kilometer section follows with a chance to view the abundance of bird life around. And the final 7 kilometers of the river back to the campsite brings 3 big rapids with names like Captain's Folly, Can of Worms, and Sphincter Flexor. There's a beautiful waterfall which, thankfully, we didn't raft over, but you can try paddling towards. And nearby lies the Devil's Toilet Bowl, only for the daring. As you slide down the rocks, the current may suck you in and swirl you around like water in a toilet bowl.
I told you I'm fearless. I'm very wet right now, though soaking wet, but what a day. My adrenaline is pumping. And officially, I'm scared of nothing. That's right. And one thing to the women watching right now, all right? Don't be one of those girls who likes to sit at home and paint your nails, because men love a woman who is fun, fearless, and adventurous. And this doesn't get any better when it comes to adventure sports. We just did the whitewater rafting. It was a total blast. Highly recommended. And of course, that was courtesy of the Savage Wilderness Safari. So you can book it right here at the Savage Camp, or you can do the bungee jumping, which was also pretty incredible. All in all, it's been a good day. Pat on the back. I was a good sport, I have to say, and so was the team down here with me. It's been fantastic. And the look at adventure sports in Kenya continues with Nick right here on Travel Diaries.
Mount Kenya rises 5,199 meters above sea level, making it the second highest mountain in Africa and the highest in Kenya. The highest peaks are Batian and Nilian, and only mountaineers with technical skills can reach it. Point Lenana is the third highest peak and can be reached by trekkers, and is usually the goal for most people wishing to turf this great mountain. Now I definitely have to hand it to Eve for making it with the bungee jumping, but I'm hoping to complete the last part of this adventure episode, which is going mountain climbing. Now, I hope I can spend the 3 nights up in the mountains, and I'm told that I'm in excellent hands. Let's go and see what happens. You don't need to be a professional climber to enjoy the scenes of Mount Kenya. Generally, it's not really necessary to undergo a grueling fitness regime prior to attempting Mount Kenya. Anyone who is trek fit and is comfortable walking 6 to 8 hours a day should be fine. The group consisted of porters, our guide, William, and a cook. So after a 3-hour walk from the main gate, you get to the first base camp, which is Met Station. Now, it's advisable to carry some water because it does get quite tiring. It's a bit tedious, but it's the best thing to acclimatize yourself before you head off to the next point, which is Makindas, which is 10 kilometers from here. So will we make it? I don't know. Stay tuned and find out. The trek ends at Met Station, which is 3,000 meters above sea level. We settle down for dinner and an overnight rest. The following morning, we were up quite early to prep for the long climb ahead. The hike from Met Station led us up a concrete trail used by the Kenya police as a communication outpost. The trail ends just past the police post, and this is where the real journey begins. We began by walking through the thick, muddy forest, thanks to the recent rains, and slowly made our way to the higher terrain. Roughly about after a 45-minute walk from Met Station, we've come up to the tree line. Now the reason why it's called the tree line is because this is where the large forest stops, and from this point onwards, it's called the vertical bog. Now we're going to walk for probably at least another 1 hour, maybe 1 hour 15 minutes till we get to more open plains there. And that's where we're going to have different species of trees there and a totally different scenery. From here, we began our slow ascent through the vertical bogs. The vertical bogs are a combination of rocky outcrops and moorland. The slippery terrain makes navigation quite a challenge. After close to 2 hours going through the bogs, we made it to the picnic rock. This is roughly halfway between Met Station and Mackinder's and is used as a resting point. After another 3 hours of walking past valleys and the infamous Talek River, we arrived at Mackinder's camp, also known as Talek Lodge. At an altitude of over 13,000 feet, Mackinder's camp can get extremely cold at night, and it is advisable to keep extremely warm. The view of Mount Kenya from the camp is absolutely stunning. The icy glaciers are a dream come true for any photographer. The real test, however, would begin the next day, and thus after a high carb and protein dinner, it was time to get some sleep. The sound of feet shuffling and pots clanging was the first sign that we needed to be up. Like clockwork, William, our guide, woke us up at exactly 1:15 in the morning. The night trek is much more comfortable than walking during the day. The fact that you can only see a few feet in front of you is a good thing because it makes the climbing less daunting. After walking for about 45 minutes, we began to ascend the scree. This is a steep vertical climb filled with a lot of loose rock that gradually changes into ice as we reach closer and closer to the top. After about 2.5 hours of climbing vertically through the loose rock and slippery ice, we arrived at Austrian Hut, the last resting point before we had to summit Lenana. We began the slow climb to Point Lenana through an endless field of white. At this point, I was extremely exhausted and ready to give up. I had to keep going. Turning back was not an option. The reduced amounts of oxygen due to high altitude leaves one extremely tired and prone to altitude sickness. The group was noticeably quiet during this point of the climb. All focus was at the peak, and any false move could be fatal. I could see the peak within my grasp, but due to bad weather conditions, the worst in over a decade, we were not allowed to summit. The safety rope used as a harness was buried underneath the snow, and it would be too risky to allow us to summit without it. It was bittersweet getting so near and yet so far. But the view was worth every ache and pain in our bodies.
Oh, that one will work, yeah.
The descent back to Mackinder's camp is the most treacherous part of climbing Mount Kenya. The steep descent and loose rock can be dangerous coming down and is quite sore on the knees, as we found out. Climbing Mount Kenya is a personal accomplishment and one that you will never forget. The good people at Naramora River Lodge made the experience all the more worthwhile. And we were sure to leave a souvenir at the lodge like many others before us. I must admit, I was really shocked that you actually went through the bungee jumping. I didn't think you were going to do it.
Trust me.
But you have to admit, you didn't think I was going to do the rock climbing.
No, actually,
You actually didn't think I was going to do
I expected you not to just put on your harness and your helmet and smile for the camera and then go home. That's what I expected.
So much training, but it was worth it. Look, you guys would have fun if you got into something like that yourselves.
And the funny thing is, a lot of people say, oh, to do adventure sports, you know, you have to be very fit and
You have to have a lot of money.
No, I mean, look at us. We're broke, we're unfit, we're lazy, and we did it.
She's broke.
Don't even trust it for a second. But anyway, we've had a fantastic time, and if you want to visit the locations that you've just seen on Travel Diaries, it's very simple. Just go to the link that's on your screen right now.
And also, don't forget that next week's episode is covering unknown parks, and those are all the parks that not many people talk about. But then again, if you go there, it's magical. You know, you experience the wilderness, and you get to enjoy time with family, friends, and possibly that loved person out there.
That's right. So we'll catch up with you next week on another edition of Travel Diaries.